in order to make the energy hub, Sri Lanka should do three things. Firstly, Sri Lanka should process in and exporting nation, which imports, as you know, so far we are not a petroleum producing nation. I have a very high level of confidence to join this prestigious petroleum producing nations club in near future. But so far we are not producing. So in order to be energy hub, firstly, we should have the mechanism or refineries and other infrastructure facilities to import crude oil and to export the fine petroleum products. That's what Singapore do, being an energy hub. Secondly, we should attract the bunkering business, so supplying fuel to ships. Thirdly, the business of supplying fuel to the jets, supplying jet fuel, bunker fuel, and also exporting petroleum products are the three steps should be taken by Sri Lanka to become the energy hub of Asia. I would like to take the third one first. Right now, jet fuel produced by Sri Lanka is very expensive because of our oil refinery. So we have taken steps to upgrade the present refinery. It can only process 38,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Again, it's only up to the standard of Euro 2. But the world standard is Euro 6 and now they are moving towards Euro 7. I have planned to establish a new refinery with the capacity of processing 100,000 barrels per day at the Euro 6 standard. And in addition to that, upgrading the existing refinery to process 50,000 barrels per day again at Euro 6. So right now we are doing the feasibility. Most probably we will be able to commencement of the construction of the refinery during 2021. Bunker fuel, of course, the ship fuel, mainly in addition to the oil, now the trend is going for gas. Right now we have not attracted much international ships just for bunkering purposes. We are mainly supplying fuel to ships which come to Colombo port. But we have planned to have two refineries, one at Hambantota as a joint venture between Sri Lanka and China. Main objective of that refinery is to supply fuel to ships which is passing in the busiest international route in the world, and most of those ships are originating from China or going towards China. So having a joint venture with China is the best strategy to attract those ships to Sri Lanka, especially to Hambantota port. Hambantota port is quite close to this international route. Then we will have another refinery in Trincomalee as a joint venture between Sri Lanka and India to supply fuel to the Indian transshipment ships. You may know Pork Strait is very shallow. As a result, big ships can't cross the strait and they are going around Sri Lanka. So most of these ships mainly going towards other ports in India and to Bangladesh and Myanmar. So if you have an Indian-Sri Lankan joint venture, it is very easy to attract those ships for fueling purposes. So that is the strategy to making Sri Lanka energy hub in the shipping sector. Then of course, export of petroleum products. So when you look at the world map, Sri Lanka is at the right center of Asia. Sri Lanka is a true hub of Asia, but unfortunately, since we did not exploit the advantage of our location, two alternative hubs emerged from either side of Sri Lanka, mainly UAE and Singapore. If we import crude oil and export refined products to other countries, because of our location, we can attract that business because Middle East countries are the main oil producing nations. We can import crude oil from there, then refine and refined products can be exported to mainly China, Japan, Indonesia, the Far East sector. Then in addition to that, we have been discussing about oil exploration in Sri Lanka for more than 60 years now. Although we have talked much about this issue, we have never materialized that dream of the nation for the last 60 years. After my appointment as the minister, I investigated, researched into and found out why we failed. Albert Einstein once said, if you repeat the same test under the same condition, expecting a different result, you are insane. Unfortunately, Sri Lanka acted insane according to Albert Einstein because we have conducted several rounds of bids for exploration of oil under the very same conditions, but expecting a better results than the previous one. But as Einstein correctly pointed out, we failed to get different results under the same condition. Then I checked what were the reasons which made us fail. Firstly, we don't have competent people who understand the jargons of the oil industry. When oil industry giants come to Sri Lanka and discuss about our potential of excavation of oil or gas, our officers here have no knowledge, in-depth knowledge about this industry to answer the questions posed by them. So that would destroy the confidence in the investor. Secondly, we didn't have an oil or gas policy, which has now been done. We have recruited oil experts to our secretariat. Then we are going to bring a new act. With that act, there will be an expert panel. We know there are hundreds of Sri Lankan oil experts working all over the world. We should be able to bring them time to time to get their advice for policy decisions. So thirdly, as you know, this industry worth billions of dollars. For this kind of a project, any investor has to invest at least $5 billion. So this is a huge investment. So they expect a legal framework to secure their investment. There was no such legal framework. I have already submitted a cabinet paper under Petroleum Development Authority Act to provide that legal framework to ensure the security of their investment. With that, we may be able to, in near future, produce both gas and oil in Sri Lanka. With that, our dream of making Sri Lanka the energy hub of Asia would realize. No, there is a block called M2 in Mannar Basin. Actually, we got three basins, right? This is Mannar Basin, this is Cauvery Basin, this is Lanka Basin. So in Mannar Basin, the potential is everywhere. In Mannar Basin, in block called M2, it's confirmed that we have gas, and in two wells, it was confirmed that we have gas, and the other well has given the indication that we have oil. Now here, this well, its depth is 4.7 kilometers, and it's a deep water well, 1,500 meters. We have to go under the water to reach the bed, then the balance length. So we have gas over here. We have found gas over here. Then this red spot is again gas. This well is known as Barracuda. It's named after fish I heard. Then Dorado. It also has gas. And you can see these patches over here. All are prospects. So, but we have not drilled wells and identified what is there. But according to the geo pattern, experts say the high potential of oil or gas. At Barracuda, at the mid-level forecast, we have gas, of course, 1,479 billion cubic feet. If we are going to have a 300 megawatts power plant, it can produce power at least for 10 years. This Dorado has 314 billion cubic feet, and it can produce 300 megawatt power. It can operate 300 megawatt power plant for 10 years. The other one, 1,479 billion cubic feet of gas at Barracuda can operate 1,000 megawatt power plant for 30 years. So, a lot of potential at just drilling two wells. But we failed. Having these resources ensured we couldn't attract investors because of the weaknesses I explained earlier. So we should not go for another auction without fixing those problems. Otherwise, as Einstein said, we will face another failure. So we are now we are about to enact this act. Most probably coming Monday, the cabinet will pass the act, then pass the bill. Then we have to go to the AG, get AG's nod. Then it's a matter of publishing in the Gazette and bringing back to the Parliament. So it may take at least 3 months. Thereafter, definitely we will go for the auction, and we expect this M2 block to be very attractive for the investors. Frankly, we are going to more rely on Sri Lankans who are working overseas and are willing to help their motherland voluntary basis. So there are a lot of Sri Lankans have expressed their willingness to join our oil exploration and oil excavation activities. Very much confident, because if this is profitable, if this is fully secured for them, why shouldn't they come here? So it's a matter of having our legal and policy framework in place and market them professionally in overseas. So I'm confident. Then, as you know, Sri Lankan government is cash hungry at this moment, and because of our credit exposure, public debt is about to be 100% of the GDP. In this backdrop, Sri Lankan government is not in a position to borrow any further. So we are going to go for oil exploration. Of course, we only issue the license, and we will fix our terms like what percentage we need as profit sharing, royalty and other taxes. It's up to them to make the investment 100% and make their profit. Refineries, first refinery to be established in Sapugaskanda will cater for the local market needs. So it will be on BOT basis, that whoever the investor who comes has to establish the 100,000 barrel new refinery and has to upgrade the existing refinery, which is presently owned by the Petroleum Corporation. Then cost of both these activities should be recovered by operating the new refinery for so many years. Those years will be determined after the feasibility study, which is in place at the moment. We are trying this model first time in Sri Lanka. That's a first attractive feature. Secondly, this is the first time in Sri Lanka we are going for open bidding for this kind of a mass scale infrastructure project. Now we have a lot of power plants, highways, ports, airports, seaports and airports, but none of these projects were open for bidding. Our foreign countries have nominated the company along with the funding. But here, we are going for open bidding. That's something very transparent. So then maximum benefit can be exploited for the country. Actually, we can't acquire because those tanks on lease for 35 years from 2003 to Indian LIOC, Lanka Indian Oil Company. That was done in 2003 at a nominal annual rental of $100,000 per annum. So for me, it was a crime. And unfortunately, it's all those culprits behind this corrupt deal should have been punished, but that's belong to the past. I have held talks with the Indian government. At the moment, there are only 99 tanks at the moment. So out of these 99 tanks, 15 are utilized by LIOC. The rest are just lying there without any utility value. So I have talked to the Indian government through Indian High Commissioner here, and our discussions are very fruitful. We are very positive about the discussion. We have stick to our conditions without being flexible. And Indian government, I must be thankful for them. They have now in agreement in accepting our terms. So we are at the very final stage of this discussion. Within a month, most probably within a month, I would be able to announce the good news. I don't want to discuss the details while we are negotiating because I think it may make the discussion futile. Actually, previous government has initiated a project called cross-country pipeline project to replace pipelines which are 75 years and 45 years old with new ones. Unfortunately, this project has done in a very haphazard manner because there was no proper engineering estimate or a feasibility study. They have, without a proper feasibility study and an engineer's estimate, they have gone for tenders and they have awarded one company the tender, but we don't know whether that value is acceptable or not because we don't have a reference point. The reference point should have been the engineer's estimate. Then we have an idea whether the figure quoted by the bidding companies are acceptable or not. But here we are in the darkness since we don't have such reference point. By the time I became the minister, Procurement Appeal Board has recommended the minister to reevaluate the bids, and previous minister has not done it. Then the aggrieved party had gone to the National Procurement Commission. I talked to the so-called aggrieved party along with the senior officials of the ministry and the CPSTL, Ceylon Petroleum Storage Terminal Limited. And when I look at the case and after hearing both sides, I found that they don't have much merit in what they claim. So I discarded. Then I said, if we can't help you, we can't accommodate you. If you are not happy, you can go before court of law. Then when you look at the party which has been already awarded, according to our engineers, they are in a position to complete the project 1/3 of the cost quoted by the company which won the tender. Because of that, now I have already sought the opinion of the Attorney General. How, if can we come out of the contract which has already been awarded, and what kind of steps should be taken to come out of the contract? Once I receive the AG's opinion, I intend to submit a cabinet paper to withdraw from that contract and build these pipelines by our own engineers. First of all, I must say, no trade union has made any allegations against their own organization or the ministry. Sometimes the so-called trade union leaders of the UNP, there is a leader who is a retired employee of the CPC. But none of our trade unions has made any allegation about anything about the present management. Retired officers have nothing else to do, so they keep making allegations, but those are baseless since they don't have access to the present information. Now, if you look at the pipelines, as you correctly pointed out, those have not more than, there are two issues. Firstly, those are now very old because lifetime of these pipelines are approximately 30 years. But existing pipelines are 75 years and 45 years old. So all these pipelines are meant to replace. That's why this project has been commenced. The intention is good, but the way they have done was bad. That's why we had to delay this and revisit what they have done and come out with a proper plan. So the best we could do is, if our engineers have the capacity to do by themselves, I don't think that we should waste our foreign currency as well as government funds in this manner. So now we explore the opportunity of completing these pipelines by our own engineers. Then maintenance. Maintenance-wise, there is not a big issue apart from this replacement. But since these are very old pipelines, there are leakages time to time, causing a lot of inconvenience to the people who live either side of the pipeline. But we have another issue. There are encroachers who have built their dwells on the pipeline. There are a lot of houses along the pipeline. there are houses as well as business premises. So we have made a policy decision. We purchased several 112 houses built by the UDA for the people who are now living on the pipeline. But the business premises, of course, we are not going to be so gracious and kind. We are going to take, we have already initiated legal action, so we will take steps to expel them from the pipeline premises. But the people who are living on the pipeline, firstly we will provide them alternative accommodation, then we will clean the area. Thereafter, I have informed the security division, they should ensure that nobody will come and build shanties on the pipeline. If there is such a family, providing accommodation for them is the burden of our security division. So I think that there would not be such problem in future. Yes, but there are not much financial losses. Just because we have all pipelines, there are leakages time to time, but we fix them promptly. So there is no huge financial loss. But we have an old refinery, as I explained earlier, which produce petroleum products at Euro 2 standard, though world standard is Euro 6. So it causes a lot of environmental and health issues, more than financial issues. That's why we want to upgrade the refinery. There is a financial issue as well because of this old refinery, the percentage of furnace oil production is very high, and this refinery doesn't have a proper hydrocracker which can use to further process furnace oil to produce other petroleum products. There, of course, there is a financial loss. Furnace oil is very cheap compared to diesel, petrol and other petroleum products. But with the new refinery, that problem will be resolved. Then we are going to use the hydrocracker of the new refinery to further process the furnace oil produced by the existing refinery. When you say the old infrastructure, we have mainly three components: refinery, pipelines, and storage tanks. We have already commenced, during the year 2020, we have already commenced building 9 oil storage tanks which has 10,000 metric ton capacity each. So that is a solution for storage. Pipelines, I just explained. There is a project, but a lot of problems associated with that project. Now we are in the process of solving those problems. So we are very confident that we will be able to commence the pipeline project in this year itself. Thirdly, upgrading the refinery and establish a new refinery. With the new refinery, of course, we will be self-sufficient with the petroleum products. We do not have to import petroleum products anymore. Then we can, of course, import crude oil and process it here. So, year 2021 will be very crucial for the energy sector. It will be a milestone of our petroleum industry, since we are going to have a new refinery after 60 years and new pipeline after 75 years. And of course, we are taking steps to explore and excavate our own oil and gas. So 2021 will be very remarkable year in our history of the energy sector. This loss should be avoided totally, and we'll be able to do so within 2 years, because with these 2 new pipelines, we are going to have 2 pipelines. One is 18-inch diameter and the other one is 14-inch in diameter. So and it may take 18 months to complete. So we will definitely complete this in year 2022. With that, at the moment, presently, a ship allows the consignee to unload whatever the cargo within 72 hours. Entire process, loading and unloading, should be within 72 hours. So usually loading takes lesser time. As a result, we have some leverage for unloading, but entire process should be within 72 hours. At present, it take around 90 to 96 hours. That's why we had to pay demurrage and incur those losses that you just mentioned. But after installation of these two pipelines, which may take around 18 months to complete, say 2 years, then by late 2022, we will not have this issue at all. Actually, that should have done by the Minister Kabir Hasim, you correctly pointed out, but your figures were wrong. The value of the tender awarded was not 15 billion but 10 billion. So then it can be done with 5 billion rupees, then 50% reduction. So this was ignored by the previous management, and they were, I don't want to name the companies, but they were trying to give a particular company. That's why another company went to a procurement appeal board and thereafter National Procurement Commission. So once they made this submission to me, I asked them to prepare a detailed report. They submitted that report recently, around 1 month back. Thereafter, after perusing that report, I am now convinced they have the expertise and the capacity to complete this project by themselves. That's why I have now sought the AG's opinion to terminate the award which has been made by the previous government. What we are going to do is replacement of the existing pipelines with new pipelines. Right. So we can't renovate because now 75 years old, although its lifespan is only 30 years. They've already done it around 1 month ago, and so that's why we have sought AG's opinion to terminate the award made by the previous government. The AG's opinion is supposed to come in this week. Okay. So with that, we will submit a cabinet paper to terminate the previous award and to obtain the government permission to do the project by ourselves. Approximately 5 billion rupees. Trade unions have never suggested any price, and trade unions have never made any representation about this issue, and trade unions has never talked to media about it. You always claim trade unions only a retired employee of the previous trade union activist. So when you say the trade unions, the entire organization, it represents the entire organization. Right? After my retirement, I can say if I retire from the, if I resign from the government, I can't represent the government anymore. Several companies have expressed their interest. Several diplomats have talked to me, but I have clearly informed them. First time in Sri Lankan history, we are going for open bidding rather than working with one company, because we don't know then whether we are bringing the real benefit to the country or not. Right? We offer, say you will establish a plant and you will transfer it to the government in 20 years. But there may be another investor who is willing to transfer it in 10 years or 12 years. Then why should we go for a company which transfer at the end of 20 years if there is another company to do the same at 10 years? Therefore, without calling for open bids, we don't know what is the best deal for the country. That's why I said this will be remarkable in that sense as well. Not only this is the refinery we are going to establish after 60 years, this is the first mass-scale infrastructure project which is going to go through the bidding process. will produce other standard products such as petrol, diesel, jet fuel and bunker fuel, the shipping fuel. But Hambantota port and Mattala airport would use jet fuel and bunker fuel. Then other petrol, diesel and other petroleum products such as lubricants, bitumen, there's a huge range. So those products, as long as Sapukaskanda refinery meet the domestic requirement, those products would be produced in excess. So we have to export those products. If it was meant for stabilizing fuel price, it should have been kept for exclusively that purpose. Unfortunately, the funds allocated for the fund has been used or misused for a different purpose. That's why Sri Lankan government has a duty to not to pass the burden of increasing fuel prices to the consumer, since we did not pass the benefit of the price decrease. Therefore, I pointed this out at the last cabinet meeting. Then the president directed the treasury to transfer 48 billion rupees to fuel stabilization fund for the exclusive use of stabilization of fuel prices. So we are now preparing a formula for this. When you prepare, although that fund was established, no fuel price stabilization mechanism was in place. Usually we should have a reference price, then bandwidth and split. Those are the three features of any stabilization fund. So we are in the process of preparing those features for the fund and to appoint a management committee, and I will submit a cabinet paper with those features for cabinet approval in near future. Although funds have been used for something else, now we are going to get funds back, the exact amount which were misused. So fund will be back, but there is no mechanism. Now say, when you say the reference price, that means at what price will be stabilized. Say 60, say now petrol 130, say 140 rupees is the reference price. Then if price goes down by 10 rupees, usually say 70% will be taken to the fund and 30% will be passed to the consumer. That 70%, 30% would be the split. Then the bandwidth means 10 rupee, because at every 10 rupee we revise the price. Then after a certain point, when prices further go down, we can't pass the benefit to the consumer because it becomes too cheap. People will consume more. Then there will be huge foreign currency outflow. Therefore, at a one point, we have to stop it. Then the funds we collected or accumulated in the fund will be exclusively invested in government bonds and treasury bills. And when prices goes up, we will use the same split. Say when prices goes up by 10 rupees, fund will bear 70% of the burden and 30% will be passed to the consumer. After a certain point, when funds get totally exhausted, then we have no choice but to pass the burden to the consumer. So we are working on the mechanism incorporating those three features: the reference price, bandwidth and the split. And within a month, we expect to submit this cabinet paper for the approval of the ministers. I have never said so. It was a misquote. And what I said was, we have not revised the price for more than 1 year now, because price has been, that was in 1st of September 2019 was the last date on which price were revised. So thereafter now we have, in other words, we have not revised the fuel prices for 16 months. So we can't keep this anymore. So we badly need a revision. And as the Minister of Energy, I have a duty to not to pass the burden to the consumer for two reasons. Firstly, you know, in Western countries, they revise the fuel prices on daily basis. Then some people ask, why can't you do the same here? The reason we don't do it here is that in Sri Lanka, energy cost is a bigger percentage of person's day-to-day budget. Their cost of living, energy is a huge component. So if there is a frequent fluctuation with higher, people would not mind having decreases in prices, but they can't absorb the shock of sudden increases. That's why we need to stabilize the prices. Secondly, take industries. Their case is worse than the ordinary consumer because they prepare, in their case also, energy cost, electricity, for other fuels play a big very significant portion of their cost. So if once they prepare a cost estimate, based on that, they do pricing and quote a price to their foreign buyers. And then they open LC. But it may take 2 to 3 months to produce the product. But meanwhile, if there is a sudden increase in the fuel price, they may not be able to meet the demand or to incur a loss. That's why both industries as well as ordinary consumers need stabilization of the fuel prices. So this fund will solve this problem. Those countries do that because last year, especially in March and April, we witnessed the lowest price in petroleum sector for a long period, for several decades, of course. I think once it was the lowest in the history because in US prices reach minus values because you pay a buyer for them to purchase petroleum products to get the tank empty to accommodate the inward ship cargoes. That was in April or May 2020. With that, it was the recorded lowest price in oil industry in the entire history. So that's why cash-rich countries such as Japan and Kuwait are now planning to have storage facilities to store excess fuel because that would be an investment like investment in gold because when prices goes up, they can sell their stocks and make huge profits. True. We have tanks, as I told you. We are now talking to Indian government to determine how to use for the benefit of Sri Lanka. But there are certain constraints. As you know, in Indo-Lanka Accord, Sri Lankan government has agreed with the Indian government. I would say like this: there are certain restrictions in use of oil tanks available in Sri Lanka imposed by Indo-Lanka Accord. So we are now talking to India how best we can avoid those restrictions and bring maximum benefit to the country. I don't want to discuss details at this moment since it may disturb the ongoing negotiation process.